How's it going, guys? Welcome to another edition of our Dynasty Spotlight series here at Masters Fantasy Football. We have over 600 Dynasty leagues, and we've never folded a single one. If you're looking to join one this year, we're looking to add about 50 more, so come join. All right?
Absolutely.
So next up on our Dynasty Spotlight series list is Oklahoma State running back Chuba Hubbard. Got him listed about 6 foot, 207 pounds. The doc here is going to break down his game a little more for us.
All right. So yeah, Chuba Hubbard may have made a mistake going back to school. I don't usually say that.
Yeah.
But, his draft stock has fallen off a little bit. And he didn't have a great year. After 2 years ago, he was absolutely incredible. So what did he look like when he was incredible? What is his potential? Chuba Hubbard is a guy that, you see him, its speed is really the one thing you pick up when you're watching Chuba Hubbard. He hits the hole quick, and then it's off to the races. He's got that long speed. I feel like he's got pretty good patience too. I feel like they always say that about Le'Veon Bell, and now it's just kind of a thing. But you can tell, he lets his blockers set up, and then he's gone. That being said, 6 foot 207, he's not super physical. I don't think he has great agility. He can make moves here and there, but he's not like some of the guys we've seen in the league. And where I think he needs a little bit more work, too, is just his receiving game. And it's kind of interesting, too, because you would assume a running back from Oklahoma State, of all places, would be able to, run good routes, catch the ball, things like that. But I think that's an area where he's, a little raw still and could use a lot of work. He's not like some of these other guys like Etienne or Najee Harris that are a little more polished in that area. But that being said, a lot of room for improvement. He's got that it factor, that speed that you can't just, you can't really predict these things with guys like Najee Harris, and, Etienne's kind of got that speed too, but, that's where he kind of separates himself, and if he can get better in some of those other areas that I mentioned, he's got potential to be a real steal in some of these rookie drafts. For me, as I was thinking of pro player comparisons, it was pretty difficult because he's got an interesting frame for a running back, and a skill set that doesn't match up with a lot of guys in today's NFL either. So I kind of went with one that's maybe cheating a little bit, is Chris Johnson. CJ2K, as we all know. I think they got similar games. They're both pretty agile, not like elite, elusive backs, and it's all about that straight line speed. I think Chris Johnson a little more elusive than Chuba, and probably better receiving game as well. But I think their frames are pretty similar and their games are kind of similar. And I think Chuba's got that potential to be what Chris Johnson was.
Yeah.
And this would take a lot.
Yeah.
It would take a lot. But I think he's got that potential. And for that reason, I'm excited about him for these drafts. Who do you think, Al? Who do you think he reminds you of? Do you have one?
So I've got a couple names, but really, when I look at him, you said it, but really it's the acceleration, the burst, and, the top-end speed that really excites you about Chuba Hubbard. So I think of guys who have that going as well. And I'm looking, just for guys who were great slashers or can still be great slashers. And kind of two came to mind. The first one is a guy who hasn't really gotten a ton of opportunities yet. There's a little bit of a Tony Pollard build to him.
Yeah.
And the other one is kind of a Tevin Coleman. Just a guy who's just a slasher.
Yeah.
Maybe can't be, a 3-down workhorse, but can hit some home runs, and even though Raheem Mostert in some ways.
Yeah, I could see that.
A lot of the San Fran backs, the guys Kyle Shanahan likes, kind of fit that mold. So with that, I might look at landing spots. San Fran was one that sticks out to me.
Yeah.
But another one's Atlanta. Todd Gurley is, really on his decline. Who knows how long, if he'll even be back in Atlanta next year. They're looking to rebuild and get younger, and I don't think his game is quite what Todd Gurley's was at Todd Gurley's prime, but in a lot of ways that's what Todd Gurley won off of, was that burst, acceleration, and just top-end speed when he had some of those great years. But a little bit different builds, and I think Todd Gurley obviously had a much better resume in college, and he was going number 1 and number 2 in rookie drafts when he came out. I don't think Chuba Hubbard will be at that level at all, but with that in mind, where do you see him going in rookie drafts this summer?
So I think... Well, also, too, I kind of want to throw in my spot for him, too, is I think Jacksonville.
Ooh.
I think they've got a couple of picks at the top of the second. They've got a couple. I think Chuba realistically is going to be in that second round range, maybe even third round after, he fell off a little bit, and some of the other running backs have looked better. But I think, James Robinson has done a lot of good things for them, as we've talked about many times. But Chuba's just got that dimension, that extra gear that James Robinson doesn't have. A lot of guys don't have it. And to put him into that backfield, they're going to have a new quarterback, a new coach, and that's the kind of guy that can, light up some big plays, light up the scoreboard, and be that change of pace from James Robinson, and maybe be the guy that takes over long term if he can put some of those other pieces together in his game. And if not, they share the backfield. And I also kind of like the New York Jets as well. Same kind of reason. They're going to have a new quarterback, new coach. They've got that second-round pick they can use on Chuba, or a third-round pick, like I said. And I think, they don't. It's better than Frank Gore. Let's just say it as simply as that. And, like I said, he's got a lot of potential. So I think those are some good spots for him. He'd get a lot of carries early in either of those spots, I think. So.
Yeah, I actually love both those spots. And kind of diving into Jacksonville a little more, and I guess it holds true for the Jets too. Mm-hmm. Both of these offenses are, probably looking at Lawrence and Fields most likely 1 and 2.
Right.
Or one of these other quarterbacks. I feel like all these quarterbacks are, obviously great passers, but also very athletic, good runners.
Right.
We expect a lot of these head coaching vacancies. There's a lot of Urban Meyer rumors to Jacksonville. So we expect a little more of a college feel type offense to maybe come to Jacksonville.
Right.
You bring a guy like Chuba Hubbard with that elite speed, little read options where those linebackers are frozen for a sec and he can just, scoot right through the hole, fly on by. Where James Robinson doesn't have those burners. So, depending on what kind of schemes and what these offenses are looking like in Jacksonville and New York next year, Chuba Hubbard could have a lot of success there.
Yeah, absolutely.
His game fits that well. So I guess if all that kind of shook out the way it did, where would you see himself going to rookie drafts?
I think kind of similar to what we said about Rashad Bateman. I could see, middle to late first round. I think his name carries a lot of weight. A lot of people know who Chuba Hubbard is. And there's some other running backs that I might like a little better that people aren't going to be as familiar with. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. And second, he does. He has so much potential. That speed is very attractive. And if he does get a little bit of a receiving game to him, that's exciting. So I do think he'll end up still going pretty high, even though he's got a lot of raw pieces to his game that can be refined. I think, middle to late first is probably where he'll end up.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's an interesting debate that we've had a lot on the show about, do you go running back or do you go receiver and, with your early first-round picks and rookie drafts? Because for a while, we had really seen, the McCaffrey, Kamara, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, these years where we've just had a tremendous amount of running back talent coming to the NFL, especially for fantasy football. It's just been unlike anything we've ever seen. But it's always kind of been the receivers who are the better long-term investment. And I think especially this year, there's a lot of high-end, very talented receivers coming in. Mm-hmm. So I feel like more so than the past few years, you're going to see the receivers go earlier. And then, these running backs like Chuba Hubbard, like Najee Harris, like some of these other guys that we'll talk about later on our Spotlight series, go in that, 1.6 to 1.9 range. But what we know about these running backs is they can give you a lot of success their rookie year. They can help you win dynasty leagues now. So even though maybe 6-7 years they're kind of faded away, they can help bring a championship to teams who are picking mid to late first. Maybe you've been stuck kind of in between, just barely making the playoffs, getting knocked out.
Right.
Your first round, like I did in a couple leagues this year, and so maybe he's the game breaker you need to just kind of put you over that top for the next few years.
Yeah. And then he could develop into something real nice for you.
Absolutely.
But I think Chuba's a good prospect, as we've said, and I think there's a lot to look forward to with him and a lot of the other guys in this draft. But that being said, Al, 3 to 5 years, is Chuba Hubbard somebody that we're still talking about, somebody that's relevant in fantasy?
So, we might disagree a little bit on this one, actually.
Nope.
I'm going to say not really. Like, I feel like he's going to have a little bit of success, but then I think he's going to kind of fizzle out sooner than we might want, just because we see it a lot with running backs, and especially he's got a smaller frame. 6 foot, 207 just really isn't a guy you want to give 300 touches to for, 5 years in a row. It's probably just not going to hold up.
Yeah.
So I think it might be lightning in a bottle for the first couple years, and then I think he could get phased out as the years go on. But
I actually agree with that. I think very similar to, like you said, Tevin Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a very similar career path where he has some of these games where you're like, how is this guy not a starting running back by himself? And then when he gets the chance, it's kind of like, okay, well. Yeah. So the talent's there. But, will he be able to sustain it? Alec and I are a little hesitant.
Skeptical.
Yeah, I'm doubting it a little bit. I like Chuba. He could be really good, but I think Tevin Coleman, that's a spot-on comparison, and I think their careers are going to be very similar as well.
I just realized I mentioned Tevin Coleman as a comparison, and then I also threw out Atlanta as a landing spot, and I didn't even realize that Tevin Coleman had a decent amount of success in Atlanta. So one other topic that you touched on it during the intro, but he had that great year a year ago, then chose to come back, and I just feel like if we were doing this show a year ago, we would have been like super excited about Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah,
now we're kind of down on him. I don't understand why he went back with all the hype he had. Especially, we know these NFL GMs prefer they prefer the juniors who come out rather than guys who go back.
Right.
Especially at the running back position, they don't really want all the mileage. So it was just a little shocking of a decision. Mm-hmm. But I guess the bright side is he really didn't get a ton of work this year. It was a weird year.
Yeah.
Didn't really play the full season, didn't have a full workload, so maybe it's not such a negative as it used to be for guys who went back for a full extra season and got a huge workload. So maybe it was just a weird few games this year, and maybe we could get back to the Chuba Hubbard of last year.
Yeah, and I know he had some injury stuff too, so that obviously is always going to affect your performance. But yeah, like I said, I think we'll get back to seeing that old Chuba. Will he be able to broaden his game and become a complete running back versus just that guy that's going to hit the hole and give you a long touchdown run here and there? I don't know. We'll see. I think he's definitely got that potential, as we've said. And it's funny you bring that up because I always think of like Jake Locker. Yeah. He was going to be like the number one pick, and he went back, and then you might as well just go out.
I was going to say, you got to go out.
Yeah. But either way, so I think that's all we got.
Yeah, on that note, let's go out while we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we make this show any worse.
Well, all right. Yeah, so we're going to go out with this one. Plenty of shows coming in the future.
Yeah.
Plenty of talent in this draft, like we've said. Plenty of quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, receivers for us to still talk about. If there's any players specifically you want us to talk about, go ahead, leave that in the comments. And if not, just leave a like, subscribe. As always, thanks for being a part of the Masters family, and we will see you next time.
Take care, guys.